Alright, today we're going to talk about writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So this is a little bit of a review. Two lines in the same plane are parallel if they have the same slope but different y-intercepts. Parallel lines have equal slopes, so they will be the same. Perpendicular lines are two lines in the same plane that are perpendicular if they form right angles, so they cross each other at a 90-degree angle, and their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So just a reminder of what opposite reciprocals are. If one line had positive 2/3, the opposite reciprocal of that would be negative for the opposite part, signs are opposite, and then flip it over for reciprocal, so 3/2. So those would be perpendicular slopes. It's all about the slopes with parallel and perpendicular. If one has a slope of 3, the opposite reciprocal would be negative 1/3. Remember, we can write any whole number over 1. So if you flip that over, take the reciprocal of 3, it's 1/3, and flip its sign to negative. Alright, so let's look at some examples. So steps to write an equation of a line that is parallel or perpendicular. Identify the slope of the given line, determine the slope of the new line. So again, it's all about the slope. Write the equation of the new line in point slope form, and recall that point slope was y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We used that form last time. That form was new to us. Alright, first example. Write an equation of the line that is parallel. It's important to always determine if they want parallel or perpendicular, and passes through the given point. So if I am parallel to this line, I need a slope that matches. So I need an m of the same, which is 2. The slope of this line is 2. So if I want to be parallel to it, I have to have a slope of 2 as well. So m is 2, x1 is negative 2, y1 is 7. So plug in the formula again. The form was y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we take what we're given and fill in that form. So y subtract 7 equals slope is 2 times the quantity x plus 2. And that goes through the point positive 7, negative 2. Remember, between the ordered pair and the linear form, the signs will change. And the slope was supposed to be 2, which we identified here because we want to be parallel to that line right there. Alright, second example. So we want to go through this point and be parallel to that line. Before we can determine the slope that we need, we have to determine the slope of this line. So there are two ways we could do it. This is a standard form line right here. We can get y by itself, so we put it in slope-intercept form and get the slope, or we can recall from standard form the slope was given by the opposite of the a value divided by the b value. So the a value here is 2, the b value here is negative 3, and recall that that was ax plus by equals c is standard form, so that's where I'm getting the a and the b from. So for us, that's the opposite of a is 2, b is negative 3. We have two negatives here, a negative times this negative, we'll flip that to positive, so the slope would be positive 2/3. So if I'm parallel to that line, I also need a slope of 2/3. So I need a slope of 2/3, and I need to go through this point. So let's write out the point slope form again and replace the y1, the m, and the x1 with our given information. So it would be y plus 5 equals m is 2/3 times the quantity x minus 6. So again, between the ordered pair and the linear form, signs are opposite. We had a negative 5 there, so a positive 5 there. So this is our final answer. Alright, in this next example, we're going to write the equation of a perpendicular line. They ask us for perpendicular this time. So if the line I need to be perpendicular to has a slope of 1/2, then the slope I need is the opposite reciprocal of that, so negative 2. If you flip 1/2 over, it would become 2 over 1, and then you change its sign, it becomes negative. So I need a slope of negative 2, and I need to go through this point. So in our point slope form is appropriate here because we are given the slope and a point, so point slope makes sense. So it would be y subtract 10 equals m is negative 2 times the quantity x subtract 7. And again, between the ordered pair and the linear form, the signs are opposite. The slope always has whatever sign it needs. It doesn't change ever, but the coordinates to the linear form do change. So y subtract 10 equals negative 2 times the quantity x minus 7 would be the line that is perpendicular to this one and goes through that point. Okay, in this example we are still working with perpendicular lines. So we want to be perpendicular to this line and through that point. So before I can figure out my slope, I have to find the slope of this line. So the slope of that line is in standard form, so I can use my m equals negative a over b. So for us that would be the opposite of a is 4 over b is negative 3. So once I distribute this negative in, the two negatives cancel and become positive, so 4/3. Slope is 4/3. If I am perpendicular to that line, the perpendicular slope, this is the symbol for perpendicular, would be negative 3 over 4. You flip this fraction over for the reciprocal, you make the sign opposite for the opposite part, opposite reciprocals. So negative 3/4. So slope is negative 3/4. This is the point. Again, point slope was y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So now we just fill in the information that we have. So it would be y plus 1 equals negative 3/4 times the quantity x plus 4. And that would be our final answer. So that is the line that is perpendicular to this line that goes through that point. Okay, the last example for this video, it says determine whether the given lines are parallel or perpendicular. Neither. Remember, it's all about the slope. It's all about the slope for this. So I need the slope of each one of these lines. Alright, so line A has a slope equal to, this is in standard form, so I'm going to use negative a over b, negative a over b. So that would be negative a is 2, this is my a value, b is an implied negative 1, so that would be positive 2, because it would be 2 over 1 positive. These two negatives cancel each other out, so positive 2. So line A has a slope of 2. Line B has a slope equal to negative 2. That's given because it's in slope-intercept form. That's the slope right there, negative 2. Line C is in standard form again, so we'll use our negative a over b to find that, negative a over b. So that would be the opposite of a is an implied 1 right here, b is 2. So they're both positive, distribute that negative in, you get negative 1/2. So we have a slope of 2, negative 2, and negative 1/2. So none of them are the same. We have 2, negative 2, negative 1/2. None of them are exactly the same. So none of these three lines are parallel. To be perpendicular, they would need to be opposite signs and reciprocals. So that would mean that this line A is perpendicular to this line C. So we could write it this way if we wanted. Line A is perpendicular, that's the symbol for it, to line C. It's also acceptable to say line C is perpendicular to line A. They are perpendicular because their slopes are opposite reciprocals of one another. Alright, that's it for this video.